Schönen Nachmittag, willkommen zur Webinarreihe SEG Talks International, der Servicestelle Erneuerbare Gase. Nachdem das eine internationale Webinarreihe mit internationalen Gästen ist, werde ich jetzt auf Englisch wechseln. So, hello from my side, good afternoon. I'm pleased to welcome you to our webinar on biomethane in Denmark today. My name is Lorenz Strimitzer, and I'm the head of the Service Point Renewable Gases at the Austrian Energy Agency. I'm very pleased that we have a top expert with us today, namely Mr. Christian Sørensen, who will give us exciting insights into the biomethane market in Denmark. But first, a few organizational details. We will record this webinar and make the video available on our website. We will also make the slides shown available for download as PDF. I would ask you to ask your questions after the presentation. So if you have a question, please raise your hand by clicking on this hand icon, and I will then ask you to ask a question afterwards. And during the presentation, please mute your microphones so that we don't have any background noise. And we have planned up to 30 minutes for the presentation, and then we will have also about half an hour for questions and answers. Okay, I think that was the most important info from my side. And Mr. Sørensen, I would now like to give you the floor. Please start your presentation.
Thank you very much. I'm Christian Sørensen from the agency. I'm team leader of the biogas team. We are 9 persons, members of staff working with biogas in all kinds of respect of incentive schemes, sustainability issues, and so on. I worked in the agency for more than 20 years. Yes, I will start my presentation here. And yes. And can you see it now?
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, just a few words about the Danish gas system. It was built back in the 1980s, transporting natural gas from the North Sea to all parts of most parts of the country. Approximately 400,000 households have received natural gas, and a lot of industry and power plants. What we have realized during the last year is that we have a decrease in consumption. It has decreased by 40%. In the beginning, it was mainly that we converted our power plants from natural gas to biomass, and we also had a high increase in production over the last years. We have now more than 60 biomethane plants and more than 180 biogas plants in total in Denmark. Yes, during in 1918, it was decided that we should make a new gas strategy. Until then, we didn't really had any political thoughts about what to do with the gas grid. But we made this gas strategy, which was published, and there's a link here, so you can download it in an English version. It was published in 2021, just before the crisis in Ukraine. and what we were foreseeing there was that we would have 100% green gas net in 2035. And well, not as we write here, it would be probably much earlier, because due to the very high gas prices, a lot of consumers have left the gas grid. You are all civil servants, so you know that you always had to come up with a lot of bullets, but it falls in three parts. We had one dealing with the gas consumption in the future. Biogas or biomethane should be used where it has the greatest value, and that will be in the industry where to these industrial processes which cannot be electrified, and this means high temperature, and also the next thing is that we should produce our green gas. It should cope with a market condition in a long-term perspective. It should be available without state aid support in maybe in a decade's time. But then the consumer should pay what it costs to use gas as a technology. And also we had to work with our infrastructure because we are now facing problems where we were producing biogas at a very decentralized level, and this creates bottlenecks in the gas system. And we also had to convert some of the gas grid in the future. Some of it might be converted to hydrogen or to transporting CO2. Yes. This is the huge development we have seen here in Denmark. In 2012, we had a huge broad political agreement, and then we introduced support for biogas, for upgraded biogas for biomethane, and what we have seen here is a huge development. This production support scheme had really triggered the development of the biogas sector, and now it had stopped. We stopped the support scheme in 2018 because it was very successful. It was so successful that the Ministry of Finance said that maybe we should use some different measures as tenders. So we stopped it for new entries. But however, if you had invested already in project preparation, you could still qualify for the aid. So what we are discussing in Denmark is new incentive schemes, is tenders, blending obligation, and tax exemptions. I will revert to that. There's still a lot of interest in biogas in Denmark. We have a lot of indication from the sector that there are plenty of projects out there. What we have seen during the last 10 years is that we have changed the biogas plants have changed from rather small biogas plants to very large biogas plants. They are now using a million tons of biomass a year, and they're producing between 25 to 50 million cubic meters per year. So we have seen a change there from a rather small farm size biogas plants to what we could call more industrial size. Yes. Talking about the input biomass, the feedstocks, you can see here that Denmark is a farming country, and we are producing a lot of animals for the food sector, and we have a lot of manure there, and manure do indeed contain methane. However, this is also contains a lot of water, so the actual yield is not very high, but we have loads of it. And what we are also seeing here is that we have all kinds of feedstocks here, and this is actually the whole science of the art of producing biogas is how to combine all these feedstocks in a way where you can get a high yield. So you cannot just say that we can just add a little more of one thing. You have to look at the combination. This is where you can get high yields. We are in Denmark. I will revert to that, but what you can see is that we, in line 2, we have energy crops, and at the moment we're using 5%. The latest statistics says that we are reducing the feedstocks on energy crops, and this is why we're doing this. There's an indirect land use effect on using energy crops, so we should try to reduce that because it have a negative climate effect. And we are also, you can see that we are using all kinds of other feedstocks. What is important here is it had to be according to the renewable directive, it had to be residues from other productions. Our regulation, it started in 2015, and it set a limit on 12%. We realized that we had to do something on this, so we didn't use too much food crops. In Denmark, it's primarily maize where we are using. We're having a limit on 9%, and that will decrease to 4% in 2005, and we will also face a ban on maize from 2025. And what we are discussing now here in Denmark is there any alternative to energy crops? That might be straw. However, there's also some negative side effects on using a straw because there's a very high dry matter content, and there's a lot of lignin in the straw, which is difficult to consume for the bacteria. We are also looking into catch crops, a second crop on the fields after the main crop is harvested. It might be a way forward. In 2024, we had a report focusing on methane losses from biomethane, and what we saw, it was an average on 2.5%, and this is too high because methane is a very aggressive climate gas. So we made a new regulation implemented from January the 1st, 2023. And it's simply said that all kinds of leaks should be identified, and it should be fixed. And we have an annual examination every year from the plants by a third party. And we also have a point source loss should be less than 1% from upgrading plants. We also try to make regulation on losses from biogas engines. However, we haven't really found the right limit yet, because it's more than 1%, and if we had chosen to the same maximum limit for them, I think it would only be few left in Denmark. So we had to reconsider that. But we are about to prepare a limit for biogas engines. It will probably be around 2% or something like that. Yes, in Denmark we also have it's a farming country, also like Austria, and you can see here this is the potential of biogas production in various parts of Denmark, and it's primarily in the countryside where the huge biomass production, the agriculture production is. What we can see here on the potential is that we are now using approximately a fourth of the slurry, and we are there's still a way to go. Straw is probably where we have the largest potential, but we have some biogas plants will have some technical problems in just increasing straw. It might create a leak in the reactors and stop the biogas production. So you have to make a preparation of the straw, making maybe a paste, combining with other biomasses. But you can see the potential is very high in Denmark, so we will not go low on biomass here. And this is actually our climate projection here for in the future, where you can see that we will probably be above 100% biomethane in 2029. And this is also a projection on the consumers. We are trying to reduce the number of consumers. Biogas shouldn't be used for producing heat for household, because its electricity is much cheaper on that. However, you can see that the green color, it's probably that's mainly for the heavy industry, which have melting processes or burning processes, the cement production, also our sugar factories and brick kilns production here in Denmark, or these building materials. Looking at Europe, well, in Denmark we produce a lot of biogas. I have just made in the right corner, you can see just the 2023 enlarged, and you can see the Danish biogas production is just a black line below, and this is the green one is the whole production in Europe. And we are going to achieve the Repower EU producing 35 billion cubic meters. There's a long way to go. So I believe if Europe should build approximately like a 300 to 500 very large biogas plants in the next 5 years, and if you're looking at 2040, the European Biogas Association says that well, there's biomass enough for producing 111 billion cubic meters biogas, and then we had to probably build another 1,000 biogas plants. So there's an immense task ahead of us. Hydrogen might be a solution in Repower EU. You can see there's a large proportion of hydrogen. However, half of it is actually planned to be produced outside the EU, probably in Morocco, and imported to the EU. And I think hydrogen is quite expensive. So, well, we haven't seen the beginning yet of producing hydrogen in a larger scale. Support schemes in Denmark. Until 2012, we had only support for producing electricity by biogas. It was a feed-in tariff there, and we had this huge broad political agreement saying that we also introduced support for upgraded biomethane, which was very successful. And now, from 2020, we had a new political agreement saying that, okay, we should try to bring costs down on biomethane, and then we should do that by a tender procedure. So we had actually a broad political agreement there saying that we should prepare 6 tenders in the next 10 years and as a support scheme. Yes. And I actually worked on this tender scheme since June 2020, where we had the political agreement, and it had been really a struggle to finalize this in winter 2012, 2020 and 21. We had a lot of discussion. Which model should we choose? Should we choose these CFD contract for difference, which takes into account the variations of the gas prices, or a feed-in premium? And due to our experience with our old support scheme, we had built in a CFD in that support scheme. The Ministry of Finance, they were a bit worried about costs, so they say, okay, we want to have certainty on how much cost we should set aside in the state budget for this support. So they preferred feed-in premium. However, the Biogas Association in Denmark, of course, preferred a CFD. So there was many discussions about this. However, we ended up with a design, and we had a mandate in December 2022, and we pre-notified a few months later. We were almost at the end of the discussion with the Commission about the state aid, and then we had this EU court ruling against the Swedish tax exemption, and Landværme, the German company, also filed a complaint over the Danish support scheme. And the Commission's answer to that was that we had to take this into account. So we had discussions during the next year with the Commission about how to avoid cross-border trade with supported biomethane. So we changed the support scheme that the green value, the guarantees of origin, should stay at in a governmental account. So the biogas plants will not receive the green value. It will belong to the taxpayers. In order to do so, we needed a new political mandate, and we received that in December, and now here in spring we had some final discussions about clawback issues with the Commission, because we also designed a feature in this tender that the biogas plants, they could opt out of the support scheme, and then they could produce unsupported biogas and then receive the green value, the guarantees of origin. However, the Commission wanted a clawback on this in case of windfall profits. So in September, we made the formal notification, and we will probably receive the approval later this month, or probably next month, expected in November. However, the Biogas Association was very sad about that they couldn't receive both the support and the guarantees of origin. So this summer they filed a press release saying that they would actually prefer a blending obligation instead of production's support. So the government said that, okay, we have set aside a lot of government funds for this. Well, let's look into this once again. So now we are having preparing a government decision on this, and we haven't prepared it for the government committee yet. So I'm not sure what they will decide, but however, I think that will probably go for a blending obligation. So 4 years of work is probably maybe wasted. Yes. Yes, this is just a slide about costs of biomethane and electricity. I maybe should put in a little bit earlier, but what you can see here is actually that the solar and the onshore or offshore wind is cheaper than biomethane. However, biomethane do have a role because it can be used for the industry, and it can also use to security of supply in case of days with no wind and very cold days. So we can use for spare capacity, and it's actually cheaper than hydrogen. So it have a role to play here. Talking about costs here, you can see there was also a question about the ETS. Compared to wind turbine, if you're producing a wind turbine, and install that, you will just have mostly your cost will be capex related. However, in biogas, there's a lot of cost for operation, for buying biomasses, for transporting it, for maintenance and operation. And comparing that with the revenue side, you can see what the gas price is, what you get from the gas price, and on the top you have the CO2 quota price, and the CO2 quota price is what you is the floor price, what you can get for biogas, because it can be used in the ETS if you are using gas from the gas grid. If you buy guarantees of origin in Denmark, you can actually hand in the guarantees of origin, and then you can comply with your quota allowances. So there had to be some kind of subsidy, and that could be in terms of a blending obligation, or it could be state aid. And you can see that's actually what I put in there in the blue color is the actual subsidy for 2024. So you can see that the subsidy do make a difference. We have some discussion with the Biogas Association about the size of the cost, and they say, well, our figures are too low, and I think they had to do that. And but our figures is also a few years old. We have a report. There's a link to that where you can see an English summary. It says that it was from 2020. So it's, well, yes, we have some discussion with the Biogas Association about costs. But this gives a very good picture about that there are measures needed for biogas, and if you want to develop the biogas sector, there should be some kind of incentive schemes. I found this table on a website. It's stated down there. It says it combines the various trends on blending obligations, where you can see France have a proposal. Germany just began to make their proposal, and what I could understand that you had a very developed scheme which was turned down in the parliament, unfortunately. In Portugal, there's one in place, and the Netherlands are also proposing one. In Denmark, we are now looking into this and also having a discussion what should the buyout price be for a blending obligation if there's not enough biogas in Europe. As you can see, the earlier slide, it actually said that the production of biogas is very limited when you look at the EU 27. So in the forthcoming year, there will be a huge demand for biogas. Looking at the two incentive schemes, is you can see that if you're having production support, it will be the taxpayers who pays it. The problem with the production support is that the renewable share in the red 2 and 3 terms, that will stay in the country of consumption and not in the country of production. So when we realized it, it also gave us some second thoughts about production sort, because the green value may be exported. However, the climate effect is counted according to the IPCC rules, and they say that the production should be counted in the production country, because there might not be a physical flow between countries only in a mass balancing system. Production support has this it's very gives a very high investor certainty because we have a long support period, and it's we haven't reached so far in Denmark without production support, and it provides a safety net for investors, and especially if you have an immature biogas section, I think this is still the right measure. However, blending obligations have some other features. It's actually the consumer had to pay for the green value. The renewable share will stay in the country of consumption. You will probably look into shorter contracts, and this will give lower investor certainty. However, it will also give a more flexibility in case of improved market condition. And I think blending obligations should be used in countries where you have a more mature biogas sector. I'm almost finished here, so we can take questions in a few minutes. What we can see here in Denmark is we actually had to modify the gas system. Some parts of it will probably be closed down. A lot of the distribution nets will probably, parts of that will be closed. Some might even be converted to transporting CO2, for instance, from a biogas plant to a Power-to-X plant, and then it could be used for producing liquid. Some parts may be converted to raw biogas, transporting it to a Power-to-X plant where you combine both the methane and the CO2 and combine it with hydrogen, or maybe some parts of it may be converted to hydrogen. We have a transmission line which we are now considering converting that to hydrogen, because it's a double line at the moment, and one of the pipes may be converted to hydrogen, to sending hydrogen to Germany. This huge development we had in biogas actually caused some problems. Where when we made the gas strategy in 2020, we were foreseeing that in 2020 that we didn't have any problem. Biogas was the base load in all distribution nets. However, in 2030, we foresee that there will be some bottlenecks. However, it happened already the next summer, where we had to force biogas plants to reduce the production during summertime, and we had to invest in compressors and to transport the biogas upstream in the gas system. So we have some challenges here in Denmark. We are now adjusting it, the whole gas system. Instead of transporting gas from the North Sea to the points of consumption, we are now producing gas at a very decentralized level and transported it to a few industrial consumption points. We had to modify the whole gas system so we can turn, so to say, the gas system upside down. We are also looking into how to modify the support scheme, and we are looking into blending obligations also, and tax exemptions, and also improving the sustainability issues here. So yes, this was my presentation here. So we are open to questions.
Thank you very much for the good presentation. We already have 3 questions in the chat from Mr. Seidinger. The first one is about transportation costs of biomethane production, and they are quite high. So the question is that due to manure as a feedstock?
Yeah. Well, we have this rule of thumb about transporting manure, because as you can see, it's heavy and full of water, and there's not that it's a limited amount of methane in it. However, it has a great also environmental value that you take out the methane of the manure and use it for replacing natural gas. We normally say here in Denmark that the biogas plant should be located. You can make a ring of 25 kilometers around a biogas plant, which is economical, feasible for transporting manure. However, all kinds of other feedstocks, they can be transported on very long distance. And due to the RED 2 and 3 directive, we now have a geography on the residues, and we can see that it comes from all parts of Europe and also from all parts of the world. Cocoa shells or residues from producing sugarcane in Philippines. We have some molasses from there and all kinds of things. But in terms of manure, we have this rule of some things: 25 kilometers from the biogas plant to the farm is what is the maximum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the second question is if you could explain the support scheme before 2018 and after 2018 a bit more in detail.
Yeah, sure. In 2012, we had this broad political agreement said that all biogas should receive the same support. So if you are producing electricity or upgraded biomethane, you will get the same. We had a three-tier support scheme. First, there was a base premium saying that you will always get this, and then on top of that, there was a natural gas adjusted premium. So in case of low gas prices, you get a higher premium, and in case of very high gas prices, it would just go down to zero, but you will still have the base premium. And then we had an early starter premium saying that if you started in 2015, you get a premium which would be phased out, and it's now completely phased out. So yes. What we are planning from now is actually a tender procedure, so that will be competition, and we'll probably lower the costs since then. But those who are on the old scheme, they will receive the support for 20 years from the point of their first injection to the gas grid.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. We have 3 more questions. I think you can read them in the chat by yourself. The first one is on the impact of the UDB.
Yeah. Yes, and this is what I said about. It's a very good question, and we have huge discussion about what to do with, because we had this very big production already, and when we realized a few years ago that the UDB would actually export the green value in terms of renewable share, we just had to discuss here internally what to do about this. Should we just waive, or should we make adjustments to the old support scheme? And we are still considering this, because it's quite difficult, and we might face legal actions from the biogas plants if we are making a too harsh measure on this. However, we are considering saying that supported biogas should count toward Danish targets, so we can only be sold within Denmark. However, we are also having discussions now with the Commission, the DG Growth, about will this comply to the internal market rules. so there's a lot of issues on this, and we haven't found the solution yet. So, and it's still within discussions within the government. So we are not there yet, but it's really a headache for us. However, I can do understand that UDP have some advantages when it's up and running, that you can then change to a point of consumption, which is, well, actually say more about the emissions from a country. However, the country which produces biogas have also all the negative effects of biogas in terms of neighbor complaints and transport and all these problems. So yes.
Yeah, there are a lot of open questions regarding UDP also in Austria. Yeah, next question is about the energy crops, why they are undesired besides the competition with food production.
Yes, the problem with this is actually when you are producing food, you're also using fertilizers and you're using energy for that. So would it actually have a negative climate effect? I know that in Germany they have been up to using 27% maize in their production. And first of all, you shouldn't use food for producing energy. However, you also have a negative impact. So actually, when you're using that high amount of food, of energy crops, it will be more or less comparable to fossil fuel. So you should reduce it as much as possible. However, you are talking about anaerobic digestion, so these bacteria need something to live on it, and a small proportion of energy crop will probably still be needed. But we are looking into probably reducing it to 2% in 2030. But we are still analyzing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much. One question, the next question is about the green value of the gas and how the green value is sold. So my colleague Bernhard Witschek asks, you mentioned that the green value stays within the taxpayer. And can you elaborate a bit further how the biomethane uptake to the market works in Denmark?
Yeah, that's a very good question because it's very unclear. We had huge discussions with our ministerial department on how to set a value on that in our prognosis, and because you have this a bit odd regulation in EU about saying about advanced biofuels in transport. So if you are producing biogas manure based, you can get an adder, and then you get a very high value on the green value there. And that we have seen that in the last year. But the rest of the biogas which are produced, for instance, with all kinds of feedstocks, then you have the floor of which is the ETS quota price. So the green value is somewhere in between, and depends on actually the feedstock. So we have actually been discussing this with our economists in our ministerial department for more than a year. But now we are heading at saying that you probably know Platts, the platform, they have a prognosis of the green value, and we will probably land on that, but it's not been finalized. But however, the CO2 quota market is actually the floor price. And I think that's the problem with the EU. They have all these targets which do not necessarily work together. So they might be counterproductive, because then some spin-off effects on other sectors.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no market where you can see the price. There's no stock exchange where you can look up and say, what have a guarantee for region being sold to. So we are actually in some way guessing. We made a survey asking the biogas plants to reveal their the market value last year, and we could see that it was pretty much close to the CO2 quota price, but some could sell it higher because there was this possibility that they could split up their biogas production in batches and say this is manure based and this is the rest. So the manure based, we can get this very high price for selling it to German transport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the next question about higher prices and also kind of willingness to pay is already answered.
Yes, well, just in line. I went to a meeting in the Industrial Association here, and they both have biogas plants and they have natural gas consumers, and they were just discussing. They were just complaining to me, why are guarantees of origin prices so high? And I said, well, you shouldn't ask me. You should ask the producers. They're just sitting at the same table. And what we saw during the energy crisis, the guarantees of origin went very high, and we had a lot of complaints from building material producers saying that this was out of the question of converting to biomethane. Now things have stabilized in a lower level. However, what you could see on my graph showing the biogas production in Europe compared to the consumption, you see that we are really lagging far behind. And when the ETS sector is demanding more and more biomethane in the upcoming year, there's some the playing field is not level here. So yes, and this is actually why we also in the tender procedure saying that, well, the government will receive the guarantees of origin, and then we are free to sell it on an open market. So because there will be a very huge demand, and the industry has said, well, please sell them because we need them, and sell them in an open way where we can buy it in for instance in the tender procedure.
Mm. Yes. Another question about the accounting of CO2 reduction. I think it's already answered a bit, but can you mention? You mentioned the conflict between production and consumption and so on. What is the strategy of Denmark in particular?
Yeah. Well, what is the IPCC regulation on this is actually saying that it's produced in Denmark, and due to there's some problems with the border to Germany, and Germany does not want to receive any biomethane to Denmark from Denmark because it has a high level of oxygen. So in physical terms, biogas is not sent to Germany, but what the TSO do is they switch biomethane from biogas with North Sea produced methane, and then most of the biomethane is consumed in Denmark, and some is actually exported to Sweden and Poland, and because then we're blended with natural gas, and then we get lower than get below the threshold. Mm. But the problem is that the IPCC says that well, when there's no physical export to Germany, it's counted toward Denmark, and this is our luck, to how to say it, because then we at least get the climate effect here in Denmark for producing biogas, and we get some benefit from our state aid. But if IPCC changes these rules, we will definitely have to do something about it. Mm. We are not there yet.
Okay, thank you. And one last question in the chat is, what is your best guess on the future limit of methane loss? Will it be set to 1% or even lower, as in Germany and Austria, for example?
Yes, the problem is setting a limit for the whole biogas plant is very difficult to measure, because it depends on the weather and the conditions. And we actually tried to have an example. We measured on the very same biogas plant every day in a whole week, and we could set huge differences in the measurement, from at least a variation of 100%. So what we designed our methane loss regulation, that we should identify leaks by using special cameras and sniffers, and then we the biogas plants itself should make a proposal or a statement to the agency that we have identified these leaks, and we are going to fix them in due course. And if they don't do that, we will order them to do so by government order. And if they still don't comply, then we will order the police to send a fine to them, and or stop the support to the biogas. And this has actually worked. And what we are preparing now is actually to make a new quantification on the sector as a whole here next year, to see if we have lowered the methane loss. However, we still believe it's a bit difficult just to say that a biogas as a whole should comply to a certain percentage, because there's so many difficulties in measuring. So we are forcing it, make them stop the leaks, so to say.
Mm-hmm. There's one more question on certification schemes for biomethane that are used in Denmark. And my colleague asks, you mentioned high prices for GOs. How do Denmark handle the connection between GOs and POs?
Yeah, we are using the Red Cert and ISCC. They are certifying the biogas methane plants here in Denmark. We are through ERGAR, which is the organization between transmission organizations here in Europe. We have been issuing guarantees of origin, and now we are also having these POS, proof of sustainability, and this should be combined in the new union database when it's up and running. Let's see when that happens, but I think it's a very crucial thing that we combine it. It's not combined today. It's, however, they are we know that the biogas plants, they are selling GOs and then using the POS as a documentation for the greenhouse gas value. So you, especially when you can get a higher price if you have a very low GHG value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have also a question, and you showed us impressive growth in the gas production and biomethane production. Has this had a major impact on the feedstock price, and do you expect the production costs of biomethane to change in future if other feedstocks are used? And if so, how, and what is the connection to support schemes?
Yes, very good question. What we could see during the crisis here a year back, that the gas prices went very high, and what the farmers actually said, we want a part of this value. So there was huge discussion and public they were discussing in the newspapers actually about how to set this value, and until then the farmers, they actually delivered the manure for free to the biogas plants and get the digest back the same amount. They just left the methane at the biogas plant, and actually get us a higher nutrient value. However, suddenly they say this is our brown gold. so there have been. So what we saw when the prices went up and the biogas, the biomass went also up, and now things have turned upwards down. So the gas price is going down faster than the biomass, and they are complaining about this. However, well, as a government agency, we will probably make a new survey on the prices for biomass here later this year, just to get an idea of how the mechanism have worked. But we don't have any reference on this, except for the biogas association have been complaining loudly. So
okay, thank you very much.
So yes, this is. Yeah, well, this is how market works, and we also seen that other biomasses have gone up, especially residues which contain fat. We know that the prices for glycerin, which is the leftover from producing biofuels for the transport, have been very, very costly. So some of them have opted out on that, and also there are some companies in Denmark, they are specialized in traveling the whole world to finding biomasses which is transportable, and that means that there's some residues which have a high content of fat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much. I think time's already up. Yeah. Maybe one last question. Are there any questions left? If not, yeah, then that brings up to the end of our webinar. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you for your questions, and Mr. Sørensen, thank you for the excellent presentation. Yeah, as I said, we will make the content available on our website. If you want to stay up to date, what is happening in Austria and also in the EU in terms of renewable gas, then you can all subscribe to our newsletter on www.erneuerbaresgas.at. Unfortunately, only in German, but DeepL Pro and so could help. And yeah, I wish you all a pleasant afternoon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for attending.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.